Alright guys, so are you after a great budget GADA watch? One that's actually fairly similar to another watch you might have seen before from San Martin? Well, if that's the case, then this might be the one for you, as it definitely has a similar kind of vibe, but obviously at a cheaper price. So this is the review of the Addiesdive AD2080. So quickly get the watch out of the way, briefly show the packaging in passing. Comes in the usual Addiesdive packaging, nothing too fancy. And then here's the watch itself. So you can see, it's a really nice looking piece. And if you've seen the listing, you'll notice that the dial is a lot more vibrant than the pictures make it out on the listing. It looks a little bit flat, a little bit dull, but we've got a really nice sunburst on this. So it's available in 3 different colours. Got this blue one that I've got here. They also do a green and then a grey. But I think the grey one might be a little bit flat perhaps. But obviously I can't really comment because I haven't had hands on with that one. So if you're interested in that colour specifically, I recommend looking for a review of that so you can see exactly what it's actually going to be like. But before we get into any more detail, first of all let's go over the dimensions, because they are actually slightly different to what's listed. So when it comes to the diameter, it's listed at 38mm, but when I'm measuring it, I'm getting the bezel at 38mm, but the actual case is 39.5. Then we've got a thickness of 13mm, lug width of 20, and then the horizontal lug to lug is coming in at 46.8, but I'll show you exactly how it wears on wrist in a bit. When it comes to the weight, on the supply bracelet, with all the links included, that's coming at 142 grams. And then size my 7-inch wrist, it's coming at about 132. So let's take a quick look at the bracelet, starting with the clasp. So we've got the usual Addiesdive branding on there. Again, still not that keen on the non-dive watches. But we've got a good amount of micro adjust there. Double pushers, milled clasp, and then again, that Addiesdive logo on the back. And it does actually say we've got 200 meter water resistance on this. Moving on to the bracelet, fairly standard. Mainly brushed, polished sides, and push pins. So moving on to the head of the watch, and this is where the similarities tend to come in more with that San Martin. Obviously it's got a similar kind of bracelet, but that's a pretty generic bracelet really. So I'll quickly bring in the San Martin. So this is the SN0129 that I've previously reviewed. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link to that up in the top, as well as down in the description. So the biggest difference between the two really is the chamfers. They're just more prominent on the San Martin. So getting back to the Addiesdive, we've got a mainly brushed case just with those polished chamfers breaking it up a bit, and then we do have that logo again on the crown. And then you can see we've got that crystal just sticking out ever so slightly past the top of the case. We will be checking it a bit if that is sapphire. But before we do that, let's talk about the dial, because it is a really nice one, and probably the main attraction with this watch. So the first thing you'll obviously notice is that we've got that vertical striping. It's really nicely done, and as I mentioned at the start of the video, it's got a really nice sunburst effect on it as well. And I'm not really sure if it's actually darker towards the edge of the dial, or if that's just an optical illusion because of the way they've done the dial, but either way it looks good. But the other thing that jumped out to me was the hands on this. They're not anything I've seen before. If they're an homage or something, let me know down in the comments. So they're kind of paddle style hands, but they've got that dividing line down the middle, so we've got like the 2 sections of loom either side, and obviously we'll be checking out the loom a bit later on. When it comes to the rest of the dial, we've got applied indices, which are faceted, and then got a high polish finish, and obviously got a loom in the centre. Then we've got that date window at the 3 o'clock, no frame around it, but I think it works quite well, and minimal text on the dial, so the Addiesdive text at the top, and then just automatic at the bottom, and then just the minute track printed around the outside. But one thing I did think with this is that the bezel looks a little bit large. Again, if I bring back in that San Martin, you can see the way they've done the chamfer on that, it's a lot more prominent on the San Martin one than it is on the Addiesdive, so it makes that bezel feel a little bit smaller overall. So if they do a version 2 of this, I would like to see them try and do that, just to get the proportions a bit better and closer to the San Martin. Because although it is a fairly subtle difference, I think it makes a really big difference overall. But let me know, do you agree? One thing that I do prefer on the Addiesdive though, is the hands. I think the ones on the San Martin are a little bit boring. The ones on this Addiesdive are really interesting. Plus they're also slightly wider, which I think just sits quite nicely on the dial too. But now let's check out whether we have actually got sapphire crystal on this or not. Using the trusty diamond selector tool. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal, so that's always good to see. So now let's move on to the loom and see if this lives up to Addiesdive's high standards, because they're always really good when it comes to loom. And they put the likes of Pagani design to shame, so is this going to be the same? So you can see we're a little bit there already, but let's charge it up, give it a proper chance. And there we go. So we've got BGW9 on this, and you can see we've got plenty on there as well. And with those broader hands, you've got a really distinctive lume profile on them with that line down the middle as well. And you can see it's actually reflecting off that date window. That date window isn't lumed, that is just the lume reflecting off the hands. And then we've even got some on that second hand as well. And then the indices are looking pretty good initially too. So no patchiness anywhere, consistent across the hands and the indices. But the question as always is, what's the longevity like? So let's speed this up now and find out. So initially, not much of a change, as you'd expect. As we keep going, it stays consistent across the hands and the indices. No real difference between the two, still holding on really well. And even the lume on that second hand is hanging in there too, despite that limited surface area. Addiesdive definitely punch above their weight when it comes to lume. They're probably competing with the likes of San Martin as opposed to, well, definitely Pagani design. So you've not got to worry about the lume on this one, it's going to last you a really good amount of time, no problem whatsoever. So now I'll quickly go over the movement, and yep, as you probably guessed, it's an NH35. So we've got that screw down crown there, with those crown guards either side, but it's still nice and easy to use. And then if we pop it out to the second position, just so we can move those hands out of the way of the date window. You see we've got hacking as well. Pop it back in, pop it out to the second position, and then we can change that date, and then pop it back in again. And then we've got hand winding. All works well, as you've come to expect from the NH35, rock solid movements, they do the job. And again, screwing it back down isn't an issue. So all that's left to do now is show you what it's like on wrist, go over the pros and cons, and let you know if I'd recommend it. So you guys can make a fully informed decision if you do want to pick one of these up or not. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So I think it looks really good. I love the way the light plays with that dial, as well as those unique looking hands as well. And you'll be able to get the perfect fit because you've got plenty of micro adjust there. Again, I would have liked to have seen them get rid of that branding on there with that weird logo. Doesn't suit the watch, I don't think. Just use the stylized font that you've got on the dial. When it comes to how the head of the watch wears on wrist, because I've got those female end links, that's no issue there. As I said, it is 13mm, but I don't think it wears as large as you'd think given those dimensions, because a fair amount of that thickness is actually coming from the bezel as opposed to the case itself, which is again why I think they would have been better off with a more prominent chamfer on that bezel, just to make it feel a little bit thinner and also make the watch feel overall a little bit thinner too, because that was the trick that San Martin pulled off. But other than that, and as I say, the branding they need to sort out still, I don't really have too many issues with this watch at all. Perhaps it would have been nice if we had an on-the-fly adjustable clasp, but again, at this kind of price you don't really expect that. But maybe it would be nice if they did actually start selling separately an on-the-fly adjustable clasp that you could use with a few of their watches. I think that'd be quite good, because watch dives do something similar now, so perhaps Addiesdive could as well. But overall, I think they've done a really good job. As I say, the star of the show is the dial and those hands, and I just think it is a really smart looking piece. So, to answer the question I posed at the beginning of this video, if you're after the San Martin SN0129, is this a great budget alternative? Yeah, I think it is. Obviously it's not exactly the same, but it definitely has a very similar vibe, but with a different kind of dial, and as far as I'm aware, a unique handset as well, which is definitely more interesting than the one you get on the San Martin. But my opinion is irrelevant. The question is, what do you guys think? Do you agree with me, or have I got this completely wrong? If you are interested in picking one of these up, link is down in the description as always. That is an affiliate link, does help support the channel, but you don't pay any extra. And if you haven't seen the review of that San Martin, I'll leave a link to that at the end if you want to check it out. But that's it for this one guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.